Good evening and welcome to the Poet in the Spotlight. Our poet tonight is Tony Paterniti. He's the featured poet tonight, known mostly as a Baba singer-songwriter. He has also written tons of ghazals inspired by Francis Brabazon, who he calls his creative mentor. Tony recently published his foundational Baba story, Playing with Fire, which you can find on Amazon, written entirely in verse. He will open tonight with the prose introduction to that story and end with a poem about Mani's passing, which appeared in the Swan Song issue of Bill Stevens' Journal for Psychological and Spiritual Integration. In between, there will be some ghazals, sonnets, and other verse, and time permitting, one or two of his songs. So, Tony, we are glad to see you and happy you're here. So go ahead. And we've got 2 hours. We've got lots and lots of time. So time permits.
Okay, so hi. First, I want to thank Gayle for inviting me to do this. This is the first time I have certainly read my poetry in public and at Baba events and in an open mic community I was in, but never to do a full feature of just poetry. So that's a thrill, and I'm actually nervous. I'm scared, and I've got way more than I can read here, but to be prepared. Also, I want to thank Gayle because preparing for this was Baba's little ruse to get me to begin a piece of important work for me that was like 12 to 14 years overdue. I self-published this book back in 2008, and it was 424 of my ghazals. And it ended on June 18, 2008. So in the last month since Gayle invited me to do this, I've been collecting all the poetry I've written since 2008 to the present.
Wow.
And some of it is still printed backwards because this printer's weird, but I'm mostly getting through it, and I will publish them. I will select what's good and I will publish them one after another. That work would not have gotten done, and I was really letting Baba down. I really was. And he gave me a nice little push, and I appreciate it. Okay, so it's all going to be poetry, except, maybe a song or two, except Playing with Fire, that's the book, and you can see it's written in verse. But the introduction is in prose, and it was actually from a nonfiction version of my Baba story, the second chapter, but I just put it in the character's mouth, whose name is Kalyano, but it's actually me. So he begins. In many respects, 1968 was a watershed year in the life of our planet. A treacherous war was raging in Vietnam, students were rioting at the Sorbonne, and all around the world, the heat was rising under the Middle East cauldron, with Israel's occupation of the West Bank, Gaza, East Jerusalem, and parts of the Syrian Golan Heights. South Africa's minority white government continued oppressing the black majority. In China, soldiers in Chairman Mao's Cultural Revolution were wreaking havoc. The United States saw massive anti-war protests, violent encounters between police and demonstrators, race riots, the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy, and the election of Richard Nixon as president. The Soviet Union invaded Czechoslovakia, and young people throughout the world advocated a counterculture whose sacraments were marijuana, hashish, LSD, and other mind-altering drugs. I remained relatively unaffected by all of this until the summer of '68, when brutal police abuse of yippies demonstrating outside the Democratic National Convention was televised in bright red living color as it happened. As I watched the demonstrators chant, "The whole world is watching," I picked up my guitar and wrote a song by the same name. From that night until January 31, 1969, I began to withdraw from my friends while experiencing a sort of depression. It was not so much a personal depression as a reaction to the trend of world affairs. I, are you hearing a hum? Let me fix that. Just to take 1 second. Okay, that should help. I turned 16 years old in September of 1968, and a new school year began. I would get home from classes at around 4 p.m., have a snack, and retire to my room for the night, emerging only briefly to have dinner. I neither read, watched television, nor listened to the radio. Instead, I sat on my desk with my solid body electric guitar in hand, looking out my closed second floor window to the street below. Without plugging it in, I would play for hours, writing songs that only I could hear. I was overtaken by a feeling which crystallized in the following words: whatever it is that makes life life is dying. As I looked at my neighbors on their porches, I could not help but wonder, don't they realize what's happening? It seemed as if all life could crash into the black nothingness of oblivion at any moment, like a mighty tree receding back into a seed, and they would never know. One day, I came across a book that gave instructions for such practices as astral projection and spirit writing. So I tried to channel a helpful spirit through my pen in the hopes of gaining some insight on what I was feeling. Looking down at the page, I saw the words I had received. Quote, "A threatening illusion is hovering overhead," unquote. Years later, I would learn about Mayor Baba's contemporaneous declarations that within the illusion of creation, there was indeed a dark cloud hovering overhead, which was very near to bursting. Quote, "I will have to take the full force of it upon myself," he had said. So indeed, a threatening illusion was hovering overhead. At the time, I had no idea what that meant. I only knew that somehow it was true. This state of affairs continued until January 30, 1969. I went to sleep late that night, and by the time I woke at 1:45 a.m. on the morning of the 31st, my life had changed forever. I fell asleep with the radio playing softly in the background. At a preset time, it would turn itself off. Suddenly, called by an urgent intuition, I woke. It was as if someone had left a gas jet open, and I had either unconsciously noticed it before going to sleep, or while sleeping, smelled a trace of gas in the air. In any event, I woke with a start and immediately went to my window. Looking down to the sidewalk, I saw Mr. Bellevin, a quiet man who rented the studio apartment in the basement of our house. He was standing at the top of the driveway with two other men. They were all wearing heavy overcoats and hats and struck me as members of the underworld. If this had been a dream, I might have interpreted underworld as a symbol for death, or of things originating beneath the surface. But it was not a dream. I watched with alarm as the three men disappeared down the driveway into the basement apartment. As the, quotes, man of the house, I felt responsible for protecting my mother and brother. What are they doing in my house, I thought. I have to go down to protect my house. Racing out of my room, I bounded down the stairs to the living room and rounded the corner to the hallway door leading down to the basement. In an instant, I was standing in the hallway outside Mr. Bellevin's apartment. Suddenly, my senses shifted into high gear. Every impression, every sight, smell, and sensation became extraordinarily vivid and clear, much more than it ever is in the natural course of life. It was as if I was experiencing life in its pure intensity before it could be filtered through the dull medium of the physical senses. Everything was more vivid, more real, more intense, the pure essence of experience. I'm standing in the hallway. In front of me is an extraordinarily beautiful woman who shines with an almost blinding light of love. Her smile contains all the heavens that ever were, and her hair shimmers with an almost divine radiance. My joy and bliss in her company are immeasurable. It is a timeless, eternal moment with no beginning and no end, a motionless drop of the eternal, pinioned, vibrant, and still in infinite space. She reaches out to me, and I reach out to take her hand in mine. As our hands meet, I experience a union that cannot be described, an eternal moment that even to this day exists unchanging in a part of my mind. Yet suddenly, that one eternal moment gives way to the passing stream of moments, and I become aware of the open apartment door behind her and of the dim light within. Those members of the underworld are in there, and she is being drawn into the room against her will and mine. It is a force as powerful as destiny. It is destiny and cannot be resisted. But we try to resist, holding fast to each other with all the force of our combined wills, straining to deny the reality that is pulling us apart. Yet she is being drawn inexorably away. I look down in horror to see our hands being pulled apart, our outstretched fingers now separated by inches. Panic flashes from her eyes to mine and from mine to hers. As she is drawn into the room, I become delirious as her image streaks in my mind, running like paint on a canvas. Poised on the brink of metaphysical annihilation, I am one swift moment away from total anguished oblivion. And then it happens. A voice speaks a saving word, a beautiful voice, rich with compassion, coming from everywhere, within and without. And with that one word, everything changes. 303. With a flash of light, it resonates within me, destroying a universe and giving birth to the essence of life itself. Like a spiritual neutron bomb, it annihilates worlds while leaving life and love intact, suspending all thought into a kind of stunned silence and freeing the heart to bask in the bliss of infinite joy and contentment. I remained for some timeless time in that state, aware of nothing but light and love. Then, as my consciousness began to probe outside of myself, I became aware first of my head, and then of my head lying on my pillow. Then I became aware of the pillow, which was soaking wet, totally drenched in tears of love. Then my consciousness extended a bit more to become aware of my lips, which were moving automatically, continuously, repeating that beautiful word in a ceaseless rhythm. 303, 303, 303, 303. All of this awareness was without thought. Then, like a machine temporarily stopped, being turned back on, the mind machine of thought again began to move, like one gear interlinking with another and gradually engaging a massive piece of equipment. First one thought, then another emerged. There was a pristine quality to the process of watching this, literally seeing how the mind works. Once the machine was totally engaged, no single thought could be isolated, but only the vast hum, whir, and action of the machine. In short, I began to think about what had happened. Where am I thought. What am I doing back here and back in bed? I was just in the basement. And that voice, it seemed to speak from within every atom of creation. More importantly, it seemed to come from the deepest core of my most real and intimate self, from a place whose existence I had never even suspected. And yet, it also seemed to come from a person. Suddenly, I remembered the dioramas I had seen on class trips to the Museum of Natural History, depictions behind glass of prehistoric scenes accurate to the clouds in the sky, the stones and cliffs, prehistoric animals, vegetation, and people. Back at school, we had used shoeboxes to make our own dioramas. I remember that mine created the scene of an Eskimo in a kayak, using plastic toys and pebbles, grass, and paint. When it was finished, I had looked at the scene, a giant compared to my little Eskimo, and had imagined the drama he was going through on that perilous river. It seemed the perfect analogy to describe the person who had just shattered my nightmare with one glorious word. Except now I was the Eskimo in his diorama. He had been following the action closely, and at my moment of greatest need had been moved by compassion to speak, to come to my rescue. It was a rich, beautiful voice, resonant with compassion and love. And because it was so intimately connected with my own being, I could practically feel the liquid musical lucidity of moving muscles and saliva as lips formed what was for me at that moment the most perfect word in the universe. 303. I lifted my head and looked around, thinking to find a rational explanation. After all, it is the nature of the mind to try to reserve all understanding for the province of the intellect. But as the poet master Hafiz of Shiraz has stated, the majesty of love lies far beyond the reach of intellect. God cannot be attained by the intellect. He can only be realized through love. Yet the mind continues to ask, had the radio still been on? Had I heard someone announce the time? But it was only around 1:45 a.m. Perhaps I had heard the Beatles song When I'm 64 and mistaken the number upon awakening as if I had been asleep. At the very thought, my entire being resonated with a powerful response. No! It was 303. 303. 303. I got up, walked to the window, looked down to the sidewalk. There was no one there. Everything seemed to be normal. I left my room, went downstairs, and opened the door leading to the basement. I had to turn on the lights before going down. Once in the hallway, it was clear that there was no one there, and that no one had been there. The lights were out in the apartment, and I could hear Mr. Bellevin snoring. The air was still and musty, not vibrant and chilly as it would have been if someone had just come in from outside. Puzzlement vied with amazed wonder and confusion for control of my facial and bodily expression. I went back up to my room. Sitting on my bed, I tried to sort it all out. What had happened? And more poignantly, who was that woman? It was not sufficient to say that we knew each other. We had experienced a deep and intimate spiritual union, and yet now I had no idea who she was. And I had certainly never experienced such feelings in my life, nothing even close. Suddenly, it was obvious that the most vivid, striking, and meaningful experience of my life could not possibly have happened. Yet it surely had happened. It was several years later when I would first hear of John Keats' concept of negative capability, the ability to be at home with irreconcilable opposites of existence without forcibly trying to make them make sense. Yet I had surely exercised negative capability that night. Suddenly I felt tired, far too tired to solve a mystery that was clearly beyond me, at least for the moment. So with sleep gently whispering in my ear, tempting me to close my eyes and rest in peaceful contentment, I came to temporary terms. What was the meaning of what had happened? It was something which could not possibly have happened, but which had definitely, without any doubt, happened. And with that provisional resolution, I closed my eyes and gently drifted off to sleep. What I did not know was that while it was 1:55 a.m. on January 31st, 1969 in New York, it was 12:15 p.m. in the early afternoon of the 31st in Merrill, India, a date and time that would live forever in spiritual history. For at that moment, in that place, Avatar Meher Baba dropped his physical body several weeks before his 75th birthday. Born in 1894 in Pune, India, he had been unveiled to his own divine being in 1913 and had begun his mission as avatar of this age in 1921. Avatar, in this sense, means God directly incarnating in human form, which he had done in the past as Zoroaster, Rama, Krishna, Abraham, Buddha, Jesus, and Muhammad, to name a few, each time appearing at a critical time to lead humanity away from ignorance and towards the truth of its own reality. Each incarnation of the avatar has features peculiar to itself. In this incarnation, he observed complete verbal silence from July 10, 1925, until he dropped his body on January 31, 1969. The phrase dropped his body may sound unusual, but it follows from the sense of his statement that I am not this body that you see. It is only a coat I put on when I visit you. I am infinite consciousness. I sit with you, play and laugh with you, but simultaneously I am working on all planes of existence. Unquote. When he is finished with his coat, he takes it off. When he is finished with his body, he drops it. Over the years, when asked the purpose of his silence, Mayor Baba said that he had undertaken his silence so that he might break it at the appropriate time to speak a world-renewing word of words. That word, he said, would go straight to the heart of the world as from God. As far as anyone knew, he never physically broke his silence before dropping his body. On the contrary, as his body was racked with severe, intensely painful physical spasms in those last days, and
Yeah, why not?
especially during his last 15 minutes, sorry, I lost my place, he was seen to purposely tighten his lips so as not to let a sound escape. He did that with the final spasm from which his body never arose. And since then, there had been much discussion and interpretation of what he really meant by the breaking of his silence. However, in my own case, I clearly heard a word which, though I could not have verbalized this at the time, had clearly come from God. And it had done all the things for me which Baba had promised his word would do. From that word, I was truly reborn. Even to say reborn somehow begs the point. In fact, for months after this event took place, I would tell people that, quote, for all intents and purposes, my life began on February 1st, 1969. I suppose I counted that as my first day, since the 31st itself was like a holy day, a day of miracle and wonder beyond the realm of time. We're getting closer to the end. It's a long piece, as I said in the beginning. When I woke on January 31st, 1969, it was truly a new morning, not only for me, but for the entire world. Life was stirring everywhere, and it seemed as if every atom vibrated with new vitality. It was warm enough this midwinter morning for me to throw open my windows and let the new, clean, fresh air pour into the room. I picked up my guitar and for the first time in many months plugged it into the amplifier. And I began to play with joyful, loving abandon. I went downstairs for lunch, then came back up to my room and played some more. I felt like Scrooge on Christmas morning after having been visited by the spirits of Christmas past, present, and future, especially in the Alastair Sims film version. From that day forward, my life has been filled with a joy and happiness that no grief or worry, however great, could ever overshadow or erase, with one near exception. In fact, since that day, I have often felt like Scrooge when he said, I have no right to be so happy, but I can't help it. I just can't help it. During the course of that day, I gave some more thought to what had happened the night before. I made 2 resolutions. I would find that woman, whoever she was, and I would discover the meaning of 303. Finding the woman would clearly be like looking for a needle in a haystack, quotes. Even worse, since I couldn't even be sure I was looking in the right haystack. Still, I was sure I would find her somehow. Perhaps she too had been given a similar experience and was looking for me. In any event, I knew I had to find her. As for 303, perhaps it was a puzzle to which we had each been given a piece. Perhaps when I found her, she would be able to tell me what 303 meant. Some months earlier, I had marked a passage in H.G. Wells' History of the World in which he describes the teachings of Plato. He says, his Republic, the first of all utopian books, is a young man's dream of a city in which human life is arranged according to a novel and a better plan. It is a new thing in the development of mankind, this appearance of the idea of willfully and completely recasting human conditions. Here is a man who says boldly to our race, as if it were a quite reasonable and natural thing to say, take hold of your lives. Most of these things that distress you, you can avoid. Most of these things that dominate you, you can overthrow. You can do as you will with them, unquote. On this holy day, I vowed to keep nothing sacred but the completion of my quest. I decided, in effect, to dismantle what William Blake had called the mind-forged manacles, binding my thoughts and vision to conventional explanations, paths, and expectations. One external effect of this soon became obvious, for I began to grow my hair long, something I'd wanted to do for years. Within 6 months, the picture of conservative Roman Catholic conventionality had become a long-haired, music-making, tie-dyed, bell-bottomed, shirt-unbuttoned, fuzzy-bearded hippie type. After a brief break for dinner, I went back up to my room and again began playing the guitar with the amplifier on at full volume. At around 7 p.m., I heard the doorbell ring, and then my mother's voice calling me. Standing at my front door was a thin, freckled-faced, red-haired guy from the neighborhood who I had never actually met but recognized nonetheless. His name, I learned later, was Pete. Hi, he said. Hi, I replied, a little puzzled. His face and manner revealed an open and friendly nature. My name's Pete. Mine's Cal. A brief pause. You want to come out? Okay. I step out on the front porch. I heard you playing the guitar. Oh? Yeah, it was really good. Really? Thanks. Yeah, it was really good. You're really good. Thanks. We walked down the steps to the sidewalk in front of my house. Pete said he had 2 friends who jammed together, a drummer and a guitarist. They would get together regularly to play in the drummer's basement a few blocks from here. I listened, interested. He said they were planning to jam the following evening and asked if I'd like to join them. Amazing. I hadn't been in a group since I was 14. I eagerly agreed. As we started talking, getting to know each other, I glanced to my left towards the horizon and saw a sight that I would never forget. It was sunset, and although I had never been one to be moved by the beauties of nature, now I could only gaze with open mouth at the exquisite panorama before me. I interrupted Pete and nodded towards the horizon, and nodding towards the horizon, asked him if he could see it too. It was not an unreasonable question given what I had experienced the night before. Pete looked to the horizon, and a touch of wonder began to inform his features too. Isn't it incredible? I asked. He agreed. Then you see it too? I asked, not even caring if the question sounded unusual. I guess he didn't care either. Yeah, I see it. And I say, it looks like something out of the 10 Commandments, as if God has splashed the sky with color, I said, and Pete agreed. Then we stood silently watching the sky and inhaling the fragrance of beauty. When Pete left to go home, I ran for nearly a mile towards the setting sun. But I could not keep the sun from setting or the sky from gently darkening. As the colors began to fade into sleep, I slowly returned home, bringing to an end the most incredible day of my life. So that's the introduction to this book, which tells the story of who the woman was, what 303 was. It took 10 years to find out. And lately, Baba has let me know there are other wrinkles that he had been keeping to unfold over time, but the story is complete as it is. I'm going to play a song. This one was easy to pick because it's something I wrote. It's something I wrote during that year of the quest, which lasted.
I just have to say, Tony, it was wonderful to hear about that time, because it's like, wow. And I loved it. It was happy. I just felt so happy. I love that. Yeah, and it was like Scrooge. Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Yep. Anyway, this song, the quest before I heard of Baba. Now the thing was not resolved, as I say, until 10 years later. I thought it was over when I came to Baba. I little did I know. But I searched intensely until through over a year, and I heard of saw Baba's picture, heard about him, and immediately knew who he was, knew him. That was in March of the next year. But this was a song I wrote, I believe, in February. In this life, I need you. In this life, I'm trying to find my way. Walking down a misty road, I can't see, but I know my way. Stopping at miles, mirages, then I'm on my way. Then I'm lost at a moment's reasoning. Seek and ye shall find. In this life, I need you. In this life, I'm trying to find my way. Holding hands, loving eyes, love that will never die. Something there pulls us apart, shedding blood from bleeding hearts. Your eyes say we'll meet again. The answer's 303. Bum 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 ba ra pa 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 ba da do da 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 bu da 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 do do ba da 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 holding hands, loving eyes, love that will never die. Something there pulls us apart, shedding blood from bleeding hearts. Your eyes say we'll meet again. The answer's 303. 303, 303, 303, 303, 303, 303. So this is the first time I have ever read that. No. Actually, I read it once before to time it for tonight. But this is the first time publicly that I have ever read that. The first time was just me and Zeke and Elena was so tuned to the whole thing. Yeah. Part of why I wrote it, I always wanted to tell my daughter Clara when she was old enough to appreciate the story. But then she began having her issues with Baba and her issues with me. And I gave this book to her for Christmas, but I have no idea, this book to her for Christmas. I have no idea if she even opened it, but because she doesn't talk to me now. But anyhow, the rest here is poetry. I've got a whole bunch of poetry, and I couldn't put it in any kind of order. I did find some really interesting things. Where are they? Over here, I think. Yes. So these were I started writing songs in 1969 because of all of that. There was a lot that woke up in me. And for the most part, I started writing poetry in '94. But there had been some before that, like in junior high, I think it was. We were asked to write something, and I wrote. It was just 4 lines, which I still like actually, and it describes. It might have been high school. It was a corner turned in utter despair, and searching to find somewhere, nowhere, an apple refused for a nickel, and the search goes on for eternity. And there's a little bit of that, like the apple in the Garden of Eden, but it's really symbolizing just wisdom, not so much of good and evil, but wisdom. And people are foregoing that for immediate profit, immediate gain, you know. Uh, but clearly, it spoke of my unrealized, consciously search for the meaning. Um, let's see. I let's see. When I came to Baba, that was in March, and then things really picked up by September. And sitting in the student union at Queens College, I wrote another very short piece called Love. Love is the question, love is the answer. Love is beyond, love is all. You want to be free? Well, then, love is the way. Just call out to see, and you'll be shown. Let's see. And then let's see. A year or so later, I wrote. I hadn't really been writing poetry. Those things kind of just happened. But I'd studied a little bit now of the English poets, and I wanted to write something for Baba. And this was the first thing I wrote. Of all the gods of the sea and air, and those ruling the murky blue, they. Oh my God! I was able to say it before from memory. Of all the gods of the sea. Huh? Nope. Maybe I've got it here somewhere. Sorry. And then I wrote some other. And then I wrote a sonnet for an English class. Said if you wrote a sonnet, you could get extra credit points. Let's hope I remember this one. This is called Photograph. And it's sort of a summary of God Speaks, description about past, present, and future, which obviously was a focus of mine at the time. Now, every moment's yesterday lives on, though its active presence passes swift, dissolving sooner than one says it's gone. Its memory is floating with the drift. Yesterday's compounded joys and sorrows swim out into a flashing moment's light, then wend their way back from their swift tomorrow. They float again upon accustomed night. Many times the camera flashes brightly. Photographer sees many frames go by. He analyzes each and does so rightly for plot, pattern, meaning, asking why. For in his heart he knows there's more than dust, and takes another picture on that trust. Yeah, thank you. But for most part, I kept writing songs, and in the society I was in, my first song was a big hit. It's the one I wrote after first coming to Baba, and I had set aside a weekend for songwriting. It was good aspects. It was Mars trying Jupiter or something. Would be a lot of energy, a lot of buoyancy, a lot of enthusiasm, and I picked then the time for the shadings of that. And I wanted to do at least one song for Baba. I had read God Speaks the day I got it. The day someone gave it to me, the day I heard of Baba. And then at some point I got Baruch's book, The Last Sahavas, And it says on first, it said on February 1st, 1969, news went out over all India radio that Avatar Meher Baba had dropped his physical body to live forever in the hearts of his lovers. And I thought, February 1st, this is what I've been telling people. My life began on February 1st night. And then near the end, or somewhere in there, he describes Baba's body being lowered into the crypt amidst cries of Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. And I wasn't planning on another song so soon, but I'll play that. I'll shorten it a little bit, just to make more room for the poetry. I'll just the repeated stanzas. I won't. Let's see, low, and lower that. Okay. And I sang this everywhere. I sang this in the neighborhood. On my corner, there was a gang of about 60 kids hung out on the corner of 79th Street. There were some hitters turned hippies 2 blocks the other way. I sang it at Queens College. Wherever I sang it, people were singing along and doing percussion. They had no idea who Baba was, but it's... All is one. No, let's start from the beginning. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. 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 All is oneness beyond creation, and illusion is the game. Ego consciousness maintains your station amidst the crying of self-inflicted pain. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. 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 You hurt yourself when you hurt another. The law of karma so very, very plain. We all are one, and there is no other. There is no other, 'cause we're all the same. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. 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 Search for truth and reality, and the answer is so very clear. Love is all, the one reality. Any other leads to hate and fear. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. 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 And now cut to the last verse. World disaster is just reflection. Who's the loudest when everybody shouts? Just a little love spreads like an infection. If you have peace within, you can have peace without. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. 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 And thank you. And I just mentioned on some chat, or maybe at RT, I think it was at a chat. I had a friend named Bill Grill at Queens College, and he was a musician, and we had met in a very crazy way. I don't want to go into sub stories, but he was a good friend, and he had an interesting sense of humor, and he loved my music, and I play a lot. And one day I came back onto campus, and he said, "Play that song." I said, "Which song?" "You know, Baba told me to barbecue Jane." They still they got Baba's name, you know. So I didn't bring a prop here; it's over there. But Francis Brabazon's "Stay with God" made a big difference in my life, and I was his. I kind of took him as my mentor just from that book. And particularly, he goes through this massive sections where he goes through all of the major achievements in music, in art, in painting, in Western civilization, and separating out what has real value, spiritually speaking, and what has no value really. And I majored in English. I was majoring in music, but for financial reasons, I couldn't complete the major. So I switched to English because you have to take in sequence, and I started late. So I switched to English, which is like the words of the song. The music is the music. And and I studied the poets that he liked. No, I'm sorry, no, that's John Keats. That's a whole different thing. But in everything that I studied, I was really focusing on, oh, this is what Francis meant. Oh, this is what gives it value. It has to come from his name or the thread of his being within you. All of these things. And then in 72, my first trip to India for Amartithi, I got to meet him. And we had an immediate sweet connection. I mean, I know now he was born January 24, which is like early Aquarius, and my Venus is at around the same degree of Libra. So my Venus trine his sun, just a little astrology, it's such a harmonious, loving connection and intuitive. And it was one, we didn't talk a lot, but there were a few things. I won't tell the stories here. But it was a sweet connection. And then I met him again at a subsequent Amartithi, and everyone was asking him questions. I don't want to go into Francis stories, but yeah. So I considered him to be my mentor. Eventually, a point came in the 2000s where I was writing morning pages, Julia Roberts' book, The Artist's Way, and in India in '94, a fellow named Steve Slamenda, who was a professor Baba Lover professor in Washington State, I think, was at the Pilgrim Center, and he recommended the book. And one of the things you do is write morning pages every day. And from '94 until 2020, I pretty much did my morning pages every day, whatever time of day it was. And towards the end, towards the 2000s, you're not supposed to have an agenda. So I would do my pages, and then I would do another page of a creative piece. And because of Francis, really, they were mostly guzzles. But just to backtrack, I had another big writing surge because Baba really released my heart from many places where it had been locked up. So I'm going to read some of the poems that I wrote from around 1994 and on. This one is just called An Instant. Sometimes I feel if you and I really met for a moment, sometimes sometimes I feel if you and I really met for a moment without the fear, the whole world would be God realized in an instant. And this one, the part they never tell. One immense experience of love and loss will teach you more about art than 1,000 poetry seminars bought with Kellogg's box tops. When God wants to make a poet, it isn't hard for him to do. He knows exactly where to place the flame and just how high it should rise, so it not only burns your little butt, but catches on to the great Santa Ana and ignites all of Southern California. It seems cruel at first. You did this just for a few songs? Until one catches on that music is the whole purpose of life, and the song contains the beloved's fragrance more perfectly than her very smile. No, God knows exactly what strings to pull. From Hafiz's princess to Majnun's sweetheart to lovely Beatrice and all the rest, who came in time to symbolize the soul of infinite beauty. And the end of that tale, never yet told, comes when these fair beauties realize that they themselves contain the truth which they reflect. For not only did Majnun realize love, sweet Lila did as well. And this is the part of the story they never tell. A small one here called Tenderizer. Your sweet love is tenderizer to my heart. I never realized there was so much at stake. S-T-E-A-K. Okay. I like it, funny as it is. This is Photograph, which I already did from memory. This is one that I... Yes.
Man, that's all yeah.
Me
Love
too.
it.
This I wrote and on the eve of the New Life anniversary in 1996. Zeke saw it there, wrote back to me on New Life Day saying, this so expresses how I feel with my art for Baba, because she was doing fiber art at the time. And she said, I have a commission piece for a law office that I'm delivering tomorrow, and I would love to sew this into that piece I've done, because it does express. I said, sure. I mean, what a wonderful thing. This guy, because Zeke is a guy's name, right? This guy, a fellow artist in North Carolina, and I gave her permission to use it. But that began our relationship. There was a break of about a month and a break of 9 months, and then we caught fire about a year and a half later. This is called Naked Art. You don't get no great art unless you're willing to bare your heart. Untangle the threads, release the shame, without any shred of praise or blame, revealing the pristine truth inside that only the emperor thought to hide beneath the clothes that weren't there. Great art walks naked in the open air while holding the hand of beloved Meher. And real living is great art. This one, thank you. This one is kind of based on Lord of the Rings, which clearly is a metaphor, a bit of the spiritual journey. Aragorn is revealed at the end as the king, the return of the king, the Christ, really. But he's kind of incognito for the first half of the story. And this is called Aragorn, Guide Me. And clearly when I mention Galadriel, I'm thinking of Mara. Aragorn, guide me. The path is full of perils. Ignorant ego prods me to dive into bottomless wells. Naive self-deceptions leave me completely unprotected. You who see with unclouded eyes, protect me from myself. Aragorn, guide me. I still think of the Shire and think that life is meant to be so comfortable and clear. But like a child out of the womb, my life is headed for the tomb. If I cannot die to my own self, I'll die as someone else. Aragorn, guide me. We must face the darkest darkness. It's there within my heart and soul where I'm so afraid to go. But if I cannot see the beast, my love will never be released. I need your grim and deathless courage to guide me on my way. Aragorn, guide me. I'm going to the crack of doom to kill the evil lying self who claims my life and name. The ring that binds me to the past must finally be cast away at last. I'm sometimes not up to the task. Please guide me on my way. Discarding the ring will bring the return of the king, whose legend lingers from ancient days, long before the hobbit ways. His identity now is still concealed. My own is yet to be revealed. Oh, what is the glorious destiny that links my life to you? And when the ring to crack of doom's released, the kingdom will live in joy and peace, though the elves will leave Lothlorien like the Mondali, and we'll never see their like again. But Galadriel's brilliance will linger and call long after childhood's illusions fall, beckoning us to another dying. But for now, oh Aragorn, guide me in this desperate struggle to relieve my life from lying. Guide me to the crack of doom, to end once and for all this lie which I've stopped denying. Quote, I am a living lie of the truth that is me, and unless the lie is dead, the truth cannot be. Mayor Baba. This is called Walls. I forgive all those erecting walls, but mostly I forgive myself, for there could be no walls in them if there were none in me. Baba walks into a room and all defenses hit the floor. Funny, the same thing doesn't happen when I come through the door. Could it be the walls of fear are mine to keep the battlements secure? Could it be that love's more frightening than 1,000 bolted doors? What a play we play. What a dance we dream between who we are and what we seem. To plunge into love seems a total loss. But are all these walls really worth the cost? No. What's the time? Okay, we're still good. This is one of my first guzzles. Oh, and then I have a Baugian guzzle. This is called God's Silent Word. Most walls over which we fret are really doors, I'll bet. So the first step is some clear seeing to open up into larger being. Second step, stop banging one's head and grab a hold of the doorknob instead. Then step back and leave some space. To open doors requires grace. Then pull that door and fling it wide and take a look at the world outside. Now there's nothing left for one to do but walk on through, brother, walk on through. The open spaces are life's reward for listening and trusting God's silent word. Jai Baba. And this was my only attempt at writing a Baugian guzzle, just kind of with the feel of his guzzles. The Whisperings of a Maniac, it's called. Oh, my mind, you are quite correct, and everything you say is true. When you call me a fraud and a hypocrite, yet still will I rest in my beloved's arms. Why do you challenge my words of praise and of appreciation so strong, truly expressed? You may tell me that I am insincere, but my beloved's beauty truly is matchless. Yet I will not fight or contest your claims, for my beloved has whispered in my ears, assuring that even if all is true, I am fully forgiven through and through. When I went to enter my beloved's palace, you threw a barricade of nameless fears, pelting me with thousands of arrows, poison tipped with all my named weaknesses. O mind, truly I am all you say, and so much more, and so much less. So I will not disagree with you, but simply surrender and rest in his love. O mare, how your silence surrounds me, like a moat around this castle of self. Shall I not rest securely within its walls when I have your love to protect me? O Kalyan, your faith is truly matchless in all of the three worlds and beyond. So how is it you allow yourself to fall prey to the whisperings of a maniac? yeah. This one is called You Are Invited. You are invited to be yourself. You do not have to make everyone happy. You do not have to make a meaningful contribution. You do not have to show your skills or your art, your mind or your heart. You are simply invited to be yourself. You are invited. You may bring your baggage or leave it behind, share its contents or toss it in the ocean, even run naked in the fields. None of us are armed, though some may growl, and you may howl or whisper or sing a little song or be silent and listen to God. For you were invited. You were invited to be yourself. Thank you, Baba. And there's a little one called death. The prospect of death makes the ego wild, but the proximity of death brings the ego to its senses. And this one is C for me. I forgive myself for what I see, for what I see is me. I forgive myself for what I've seen. For what I've seen, I've been. As for what I will see, I leave that to thee, to see through me and be free. Jai Baba. This one is called Grace. Am I going too fast? Too quickly through the poems? Okay. This is called Grace. When love opens a door, and this was written around 1997 when Zeke and I connected. A lot of poetry flowed from that also. Grace. When love opens a door, no power can close it, for there is no other power. When life opens a door, no power can hold it, for life is in motion always. When fear opens a door, one is surely dreaming, for fear has no power really. When truth beholds a seeming door, it reveals there are no walls, making the idea of doors silly. For without walls, what is a door except a dream of love divided? Only terror can come from that deception. Yet when grace opens a heart, it reveals the truth of union. And when you open a door, it is always grace. Jai Baba. And this is one of my all-time favorites, although it's very short and to the point. It's called Union. We can find the truth together that we cannot find apart. There's no room for separation in a single loving heart. In a life where truth is union, There can be no better way for my soul to know reality than to join with you today. And this is questions and answers. Question: what looks beautiful from the outside but unyielding from the inside? Longing. What looks passive from the outside but active from the inside? Surrender. What looks impossible from the outside but certain from the inside? Love. What looks dual from the outside but singular from the inside? Will. What looks beautiful from the outside and even more beautiful from the inside? You. And just a little almost haiku-ish thing called icons. The sun fell down into my pocket, where the moon was already nestling sweetly among some rose petals. Ah, Baba. Let's see what time we are. Let me get, well, this is just this one, and I'll get to something else then. But this is called heaviosity. Heavy conversations must be undertaken from a place of light if they are to rise. If not, they sink into the drink. My heaviosity meter reading lets me know which way to go, so the heat will rise up to the skies and not remain to sauna my brain. I pulled out some gusts.
Where can I buy one of those?
The heaviosity reading. You've got it, and you actually got it in there. You got to go looking for it. Baba will help. You definitely say, Baba, where's my heaviosity meter reading? This is all right. So I have put together a pile of poetry now, from here about to up to here. Oh, sorry, from here about up to here. And I just went through as quickly as I could with some of them to try and pick out some that I felt were worth sharing. This is Lead into Gold. Whatever the future may hold, I hope it turns lead into gold. However my heart survives, I hope in the end it thrives. Whatever the gods allow, I hope to be whole somehow. Whatever the fates decree, I hope they are kind to me. Whatever my prayers declare, I hope it is loving and fair. However my truth may speak, I hope it is mild and meek. Yes, whatever life unfolds, I hope it turns lead into gold, which is like, alchemy and the gold of the real self. This is Take Over the no, wait. It's hard to know, but I'm going to let my intuition guide me. Dawn's Rosy Fingers. It says it's a guzzle, but it's actually a sonnet. You see from here, it's a sonnet, not a guzzle, but they're similar, but different in feel. Dawn's Rosy Fingers. I surrender these fingers to you, my love. Shadows linger like dew, my love, but you are forever true, my love, and so I surrender to you. These smiling eyes approve, my love, a time to realize, my love. The beauty in your eyes, my love, is the always only true. These fingers love to dance, my love, so give them half a chance, my love, and they will gaily prance, my love, leading them as you do. And then somehow, somewhere, some way, dawn's fingers stream the break of day. And I've marked the second one. Let's see what it is. Okay. It's called Oh Angel of My Eyes. Oh angel of my eyes, surprise me. Bring a healing by the grace of my beloved Mayor Baba, love's divine face. shining like a risen sun, bringing light where darkness was, bringing sight where clouds had gathered. God is as God does. See how I've been seeing backwards, keeping healing far at bay. From the fountain, water flows, is all that one can say. For grace is hers, yes, grace is his. For God does as God is. Oh, a baby love song. Yes, a baby love song. This is a guzzle. I trust you to the deepest depths of healing. I love you to the highest heights of feeling. I give you by receiving as I'm able. I live you when my soul's a coral gable. I know you when I laugh at all my knowing. I hoe you like a field of farmers sowing. I play you like a child who's building castles, as I fling away my cap and gown and tassels. I drink you in like a child drinks in its mother. I sink in the safety of your love like no other. I open my heart relentlessly. You make it bigger. I play my part intensively. You pull love's trigger. I prattle with these words while knowing all the while my being begins and ends and begins in your delicious smile. Um, can you excuse me for just a moment? And then I'll go into the last part of this. Just chat among yourselves.
Did you say something, Rosalie? You're muted.
I said, it looks like we're the lucky seven
It
tonight.
looks like it, doesn't it? Yeah, that's great. What a treat.
Oh my,
It's just been such a treat. It's wonderful.
yeah.
All right, he's back. Yay.
Okay, this is the longer piece, and I want to do it now so I'm sure I leave room before RT. This is kind of as long as the first one, but it's all in verse. And I posted it to the listserv, and Bill Stevens asked if he could include it in the Journal for Psychological and Spiritual Integration. And it happened to be the swan song. The finances became too difficult to manage, and they had to shut it down after several years. And so this is in the last issue. It's let's see, it's the Mani, passed on Sunday, August 8th. It's called Mani, Sunday, 18 August 1996. And there's a nice picture of Mani just before these. Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So, Baba, speak these words through me, for how can I convey without your word the tale of all the blessings you've bestowed upon this one who longed to see Mani again? Connections are internal. This I've learned over the past 2 years. But how could I have realized the power of the link by which you drew us far across the seas, to fall in grief and joy upon our knees, bowed to the ground where love gives as you please? Bao says that Mani slept 21 days before she went to you, and that would be from 29 July if I count right. And oh, how well do I recall that day. I woke after a peaceful night of sleep, turned on the radio, then suddenly began to weep in the deepest sobs of grief, all the while wondering where and how and why. My mind turned to one I'd loved so dearly, who gave me entrance to the realm of tears. Yet after all these years, how could it be that grief remains so fresh as love must be? I wrote a poem then and sent it out to share here with your lovers. Now I see the tears were not for her, but for Mani, who quietly and gently slipped away, asleep to the world, Bow says, all from that day. And it's called Vesuvius Blue, and I'll just sing it without the guitar because I later set it to music. Vesuvius erupted this morning unexpectedly after months of best behavior. Splattering lava in the surrounding sound. Not fiery red, but silver blue in memory of you, Vesuvius Blue. Was it the news of all those lovers in searing separation's flame? Or Sting's insistent melody and repeating false refrain in tribute to the living slain? Each outburst birthed a world of beauty. Creation is the lover's duty. Each outburst birthed a world of beauty. Creation is the lover's duty. Vesuvius Blue, with thoughts of you. How truly unexpected. After all these years, I never knew the power is still hidden in the earth of me. And how unpredictably abrupt. Vesuvius Blue, with thoughts of you. 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 Vesuvius Blue. And I should have mentioned that's spelled B-L-U-E. Within a week, the news was on the net from Dr. Goer. No, it could not be. I marveled at the sobs that filled the air each morning in my car driving to work. I tried to bargain, talk you, Baba, out of it. Give her your presence, that for which she longs, while yet allowing us to have her here. But lawyering was not to work this time. Remembering Mani's words, at least I tried. How anxious I became. The day was fixed as 15 August to depart for India. You have to wait, I pleaded to Mani. We'll be there. Wait for us. Till a stillness let me know that Mani would surely wait till we arrived. Yet you had fixed the date yourself. My choice had been to leave as soon as summer came, but legal obligations would not yield. How strange, I thought, you did not turn your key. Now I see you'd turned it perfectly for me. We arrived at Mehrabad on Saturday. On Sunday we were there at Merazad. While Mani slept, we walked up to your porch, where Goher, seeing me, said to Meru, "Ah, the UN man." And that's when you revealed again that limits will not rest as bindings on your loving kindnesses. For that's when Goer held my eyes as she delivered your dear Mani's words to me, delivered while Mani slept. Yet it was you who spoke in Sleeping Beauty's surprising words. 10 to 15 days ago, Goer says, and that would be around the 1st of August, Mani opened her eyes. She lifted her head and spoke these words quite clear. "Now I have finished my work at the UN." Then closed her eyes again, and that was all. How staggering, and how perfectly clear. For I remembered August 1st quite well, and all that went before it, leading to a powerful Baba moment there with you. But perhaps here I need to tell the tale. The UN is the place I work since you decided that was where you wanted me, and that's the only reason I'm there. Yet several months ago I thought to leave after surrendering my job stuff to you. You led me through an odyssey whose end brought me back to the place where I began, after a roller coaster ride led by your hand. Your presence in it all had been so clear, and clear results ensued. Yet it was all but prologue for the Baba rush to come. Some months back, in a hall where I often go, I looked up and suddenly saw Arsenio, your lover, my friend for many years unseen, now here at the UN on some official work. Both of us busy, we stopped for a quarter hour and over coffee caught up on 10 years. Then went our ways. Your hand was clearly seen, though I never tried to figure out what it means. Several days later, Linwood calls and says Franny and Shireen, Baba's niece and sister-in-law, are passing through our town this week. Tell me, Tony, would you be willing to give them a tour of the UN? I've never done that before, never thought I could. But Linwood said Kitty had always seen Shireen at the UN, though we don't really know what that means. So I agreed. And when the day arrived, we all had lunch in the UN cafeteria, and then I took them on an impromptu tour with your sweet presence flowing everywhere. On the way out, we ran into my friend Ralph, but no red herrings this time. I smiled as he met Franny, your sister-in-law, Shireen, your niece. How attentively you tend your growing flowers. Yet there was more to come. A week or so after this, the phone rings at my desk, and it's Gary from the UK who's here in town. I hadn't seen him since Merrill last year. A student of peace studies, Gary's here visiting a Baba friend and wants to know if they can come to see me and if I can give them a little tour around the UN. Again, I agree. Again, we do the same. Lunch in the cafeteria, then the tour. Your presence, light and generous, endures along the halls like silent vapor trails. Then Hoshang and Havovi come to town. And this time I take the bull by the horns, suggesting they might like to come and see the United Nations and have lunch there with me. The date was Thursday, August 1st. They came and spent the afternoon, and how you flowed, especially through Havovi. After lunch, we went up to my office where they saw my Baba desk. I introduced them to my French and English-speaking colleagues. She was overflowing with your name and praise. I marveled as my colleagues soaked it in. So then we took the tour. After a while, we took a break to answer nature's call. Soon, Hoshang and me, and also Cindy, too, are waiting in the hallway for Havovi, who's been in the ladies' room with Kristen C. for 15 minutes now. When they emerge, I see the Ukrainian lady they met there, aglow with your sweet love, and hear her say to Havovi, I know you. We are soulmates. Then cappuccino in the delegates' lounge. The place was empty before we arrived. No sooner we sat down than a crowd was there. You flowed as Havovi tried to fix me up with Baba actresses out in LA until we rose to leave. When I looked back, the delegates' lounge was suddenly empty again. Before leaving for the West, Havovi said they'd visited with Mani, who had praised for them for taking Baba with them there. Havovi had turned that round to Mani's praise. And while this wonder passed here in New York, Mani in India opened her eyes and said, now I have finished my work at the UN. And then closed her eyes again, and that was all. Astonished at Mani's words, I also laughed, for I had placed conditions on your love, which you had deftly put aside that day. Yet here again, perhaps I should explain. In each of my recent trips to India, usually just before I was to leave, Mani said or sent a message to me which clearly was from you, Baba, entirely. The first time, several years ago, a last embrace before departure from Merrill. Thank you for making it all happen, Mani says. Huh? I wonder, Mani, what do you mean? Thank you for making it all happen, she says again. Till I realize Monty's not really there, and this is something that you, Baba, want me to hear. Later that year, I conclude writing up the tale of 303, how you brought you to me and me to you, and how you rescued me. A journey of love and light, but bloody too, till the dedication page is facing me, and Mani's words spring swiftly to my mind. Thank you, Baba, for making it all happen. Fast forward now to summer 94. I'm grappling with your order, how to heal a relationship that means so much to me. Some fellow pilgrims know, but basically it's a matter of samadhi work for you and me. For hours each day we thrash it out. I think an Arnavaz problem if ever there was one, but somehow you never let the word arise. So no one in Merazad had heard a thing about the longing that is leading me to turn my life around in hopes that you and I, Baba, can bring the reconciliation that I seek. So now in Merazad on my last day, 5 minutes from boarding the hired car for Bombay, Mani, who's sick with flu, sends word to me, tell Tony not to worry about a thing. That this was your assurance, Baba, was so clear, I rode to Bombay with a smile from ear to ear. Ironically, events when I returned were worse than I could have imagined. Yet I know your words are true and wait to see exactly what their meaning is for me. In summer of 95, it was reversed. The Lady Mandali came to bow to you at your samadhi, while we sat and sang. When my turn came, I sang a song you'd given me. The only thing clear is that you want me here. The flavor of the lyrics, I would escape from your demand that I love endlessly, for this is far too hard. Yet in the end, the only thing clear is that you want me here. The only thing clear is that you want me here. After a while, the ladies leave your court, proceeding towards your shed. I stand among the circle of your lovers, standing back a comfortable distance away so they may pass. But Mani, passing by, when she sees me, crosses over very purposively and says, Baba was singing directly to me through you. Later, a woman resident said to me, you should have seen the glow on her face as you sang. Yet while this pleased my heart, I also knew the reason my song had spoken so to her. For Mani was saying, Baba, I want to go. But the only thing clear is you want me here. So as I flew to India, I remembered your sweet ways of speaking through Mani to me. Alas, I thought, it's not going to happen this time. How could it? With Mani sleeping, still and ready to go. When will I learn not to condition you? Arriving at Merazad, your words are there, spoken through Mani even as she slept, now waiting for me to arrive and hear. Now I have finished my work at the UN. The following morning at 7:01 a.m., Mani flew to your arms. There's more to tell. I wait for you to continue when you will. And I have a note here which I won't read, but when I got back to New York after many years of trying to 5 decades of international efforts to ban all forms of nuclear testing, the world's first comprehensive nuclear test ban treaty was adopted at the UN General Assembly in New York on September 10. The adoption of the landmark treaty followed by hours Mani's internment on Mehrabad Hill on September 8, India time. Interestingly, India had been one of the few countries to actively oppose the treaty. The way out of the deadlock had literally been reached at the 11th hour, just prior to adoption of the text. So, Baba and Mani did something there. And so far, non-proliferation of nuclear weapons, it's been holding. So I don't know. I have more I can read, but it looks like maybe we're
Read more for sure.
yeah, okay. I'm so easily persuaded. This is a guzzle in the light of pure awareness. A spear of fear pierces me, comes near my beating heart. I feel I start It's clear that instantly I am in the grip of false delusion. Brother, can I nip it in the bud this time? But see how quickly it slips past my defenses, feels so prickly. Aye, but there's the rub. It's not defenses I must rely upon. All that which tenses and contracts can only be a friend to that which would confine me in the end. If I would keep heart free from ego's nearness, I must rely instead on pure awareness. Mind and heart together must be free in the light of awareness. Beloved, you in me. Waterfalls and spirit rises. Wait, was I going to read that one? I'll read it. Waterfalls, it's never creeping, sometimes flowing, sometimes leaping, sometimes seeping into soil, nourishing while others toil. Water always finds the place of lowliness and perfect grace. Striving to attain's okay, all caught up in brains, I'd say, but only in loving is spirit free, flowing like water, joyfully. In this life, nothing surpasses joy. Forget all castes and classes. Like the waters, let us fall, till encircling the earth, embracing all. And this one is called All Embracing, another guzzle. Oh no, it's another guzzle that looks like a sonnet. It's a sonnet. Love's suffering is so much better than the suffering of meaninglessness. Exquisite, poignant, sharp, and sweet, it is life advancing, not in retreat. Love, you cook me on your flame, and I am changed. You call my name, and singing softly bring me to a new existence as part of you. Serve me, love, that I may be a part of your humanity. As food for life, this meal's been bought, better than being mere food for thought. In giving myself to love, just see, you're expanding my reality to all embracing. Yes, serve me, Lord, was serve me as dinner. I should have maybe made that a little bit more clear. This one. Oh, this is a little bit of a different one, kind of thing. We make up the tale as we go along. Immutable. Some laws are immutable. Some laws are inscrutable. They cannot be screwed with. But mostly we make up the laws as we go along. Then we shake them or break them or wholly forsake them or swear we will take them like Joan of Arc as a banner to live by, a banner to die by, a banner to try by, or just for a lark. In the end, it's all a walk in the park, or a scary plot, a walk in the dark. No laws to guide us, beliefs to hide us, dreams to define us, hopes to align us. Whatever we choose, we win or lose as we decide. We go for a ride on low or high tide and are glad that we tried till we're feeling fried and say, that's enough, and enough is enough. This was getting kind of tough, and the players were too rough. If I had my way, but I do. I would turn the tables on you or turn the tables on me. Yes, that's what I'd do. 'Cause what's a story without some tables turned? Without some bridges burned, without some lessons painfully learned, or some great victory finally earned. It's our story, and we really care. Even when we write despair, it must be meaningful, or there will be unwanted wear and tear on our very souls. And what's the point of writing fiction that leaves the joint dissatisfied with wimpy endings? At the least, we want to leave something pending. For now, I choose just to let it come, to come what may, to be a chum to all the twists and turns arising, that they all may be new, but not too surprising. Sine die, this is the end. With this holy screen I've become a friend, to fill it with words that shimmer and shine, and we end with a play that must be divine. And I read that one already. Okay, what about racing for the door? No, what is this? Tuning in. A sonnet. Tuning in. Do you know the meaning of success? It is simply doing what you love and sharing what you've made with all the world, who share in turn their silver and their gold. Do you know the meaning of arrival? It is simply staying where you are and making it a place of green awakenings where flowers grow and freed birds sings. Do you know the meaning of completion? It is simply leaving worries, doubt behind and tasting every moment like that strawberry by the cliff over the sea on the hanging vine. Do you know the meaning of God realization? Just be yourself and never change that station. It's called tuning in. Let's see. These are all part of the collection, some of which will be published this year. Another sonnet. Yeah, okay. A vision of love. It's a grim and overcast day. This is true right here, right now. It's a grim and overcast day, and yet the sun in my heart outshines the wet and dreary scene outside my window, where no soul would choose to go. For here within my grateful soul is a vision of love that keeps me whole, despite Lord Maya's grand illusions that keep the world in such confusion. The evil that we see is so reflecting what we ought to know, but keep from ourselves. It's a treacherous game, and we always seek an other to blame. But the sins we see are in our own minds. We must set them free or remain blind. Again, I'm not quite sure. I glanced at a few that I thought would be good, and I put a little blue marker on them. This is Love Speaks Unexpectedly, another sonnet. Love speaks unexpectedly. It arises like a phoenix from the ashes of heart, and speeds like a dart to its waiting counterpart, and enters its burning sand till the earth's core cries. On the surface, the moment passes swiftly. Two hearts have been set on fire, but in the course of a predetermined train of movement, which move their bodies apart and on their way. I wonder now today at this large fire that has no slightest tie to the flame that lit it. If there was a bullet, I would have surely bit it by now to tame the rising of this pyre. So I surrender, love, to its awakening, and will not question the grace that makes it spring. Shall I continue? We seem to have lost a quorum. It's fine with me if you'd like to hear more. If that's been enough and it's been plenty, that's fine too.
Tony, I'm afraid I promised my daughter I would call her tonight, and I'm a little late doing that. So I need to, this has been just, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
It's so great to hear. A few of these I've heard before, but I just loved hearing them again. It's like things that I read, things that I hear mean so much when I hear them again, and to hear you and see you reading them. Especially with my hearing aids, it really helps to be able to see you reading these wonderful things.
You have time for me to give you one short one?
Oh, please.
Okay. This is a ghazal. It's called Arrival. It looks really nice. I welcome you, lover of Meher Baba, crossing the sea of fuss and bother, braving the rains of false perception, eschewing the comfort of sweet deception. You have found your way at last to the place where future meets the past, timeless, present truth and joy, love that will never ever cloy. All the bitter tastes are gone, fragrance fills the air. We run like children out in joyous playing. Home at last, we will be staying. By your grace, arrivals come. The grace of your love, eternally young, the perennial ancient one. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
PJ,
Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
KJ,
Avatar Meher
Meher
Baba
Baba
Ki Jai.
KJ.
Mera Meher Baba. Mera Meher Baba. Mera Meher Baba Ki Jai. Thank you. I don't know if I should leave while it's still recording though. Is Gayle there to sign us off or end the recording? Or you're gonna go. Best to your family.
Yeah, I need to call my daughter so she doesn't worry. I told her earlier.
No.
Okay.
Bob,
Okay.
I'm so glad you were here, and you're such a good audience because you get what the lines are. And
Tony, I was an English major too.
Mm.
So I read a lot of poetry that made absolutely no sense to me. So, the things that the best of poetry goes straight to the heart. It's accessible in that way. It isn't full of just strange ideas and words I don't understand. It's accessible. It goes through the mind and straight to the heart, and yours does that. So thank you, my friend.
It helps to have a really good mentor like Francis Bradford.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and he left so much there to learn from. Yeah.
Okay.
Tony, this has just been stupendous and it's been memorable. Fortunately, it's recorded. We can come back to it. I hope we will hear a lot of your poems during Artie. In addition, not to cut back on songs, not to cut back on stories, but work in some of the poems. And they're small, you could read 4 or 5 at a time. So now that we've heard your poetry, we want to hear more of it.
That's good. Right now, I'm working very hard at getting it all organized. So I'll show you this table here. To do this tonight, I had to pull out all these different files and turn them to different pages. But I'm trying to put them in order to get some semblance of a book, how many books, what the content would be. There's literally thousands of pages here, and I'm so grateful to you because of this. It spurred me on to. I'm nearly finished with the first part of that process. So many thanks for that.
I'm really impressed with how you experience so much of your life through poetry. It's not my experience, so it's really amazing for me to see how it is yours and how beautiful it is.
I'm not sure that I experienced life through poetry, but the poetry reflects what's going on.
Yeah. And maybe we could say like almost processing life through the poetry.
A lot of that.
And it's just a beautiful view of you and your experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm not sharing the darker pieces though.
That's okay.
I process the darker stuff also with those poems. So I got to be really careful that I don't inadvertently publish something that, shouldn't be published.
Well, that's your call, and that's your process, and you process it all. So that's a good thing, and you get to choose what you put out to the world.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna say good night.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll see some of you at Artie. And Tony, again, thanks a million. It's been delightful.
I don't want to leave while the recording is still going on.
Okay.
So
Let me